Hello and welcome to A Lonely Critic, or actually no, wait. Hi, my name's Anthony Renteria, or also known as A Lonely Critic on this YouTube channel. Today is it's technically my second review, but this is like my first post-introduction review. So this week I watched The Last Night in Soho. Is it called The Last Night in Soho? So tonight I watched Last Night in Soho, directed by Edgar Wright. And I guess before I get into like my initial impressions and review of this film, immediate reactions, I guess, after, because I literally just watched the movie, I'm in my car, and now I'm just pouring my thoughts out. So that's what this channel is. If you're new, if you're coming back from my intro video, you're one of my old friends or someone I knew, thank you for watching my intro video. It means a lot. I was expecting like 5 views and I got like 40, which is which is more people than I thought I knew in my life. So thank all of y'all for doing that and subscribing. It means a lot. But what was I gonna say? I'm still kind of nervous, so I'm still gonna screw up a lot. But yeah, so this week I watched Last Night in Soho, directed by Edgar Wright. And I guess before I get into all that, I just want to say for anyone who hasn't watched Last Night in Soho, I'm not going to spoil anything. I will avoid talking about anything I will avoid spoiling anything and talking in specifics, which is actually going to be pretty difficult for this movie. If you've seen the trailer, or you know like the general gist of the story, it's this girl who's a fashion designer, goes into this, I guess it's called Soho, it's this town in London. She's going to school to be a fashion designer, and this is all in the trailer, the synopsis, so this isn't spoilers. And then through some sort of connection, she can connect to the past of the 1960s, and that's kind of the origin of this plot that the film tackles. But I guess one thing I want to say, I've said this like 4 times already, but one thing I wanted to say is that I'm a huge fan of Edgar Wright. I love his films. I think I'm probably one of his biggest fans. I mean, his movies mean a lot to me. Like Scott Pilgrim versus the World is at least in the top 10 of all time movies. Like, it's just a perfect film. Every time I watch Scott Pilgrim, it gets better. And then my second favorite film by him, The World's End, is also, I just love that film. It's a 10 out of 10. His other films are like Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, both also amazing films. And then he did Baby Driver, which I guess I didn't dislike, but it definitely felt like lesser than his other works in a weird way. And then I guess that'll get me into my initial impressions of this film. So I went into this film not really with high hopes. I don't really like watch movies and like expect things of them, but I do feel excitement. So like, how excited am I to watch this person's new film? And for Edgar Wright, I was insanely excited. Like I love when creators push themselves to do something different. I think that's something I am obsessed with, like in my writing and my ideas of being like a creative. Like, I'm always interested in, how do I word it? I'm always interested in doing something that maybe hides myself. I don't know, maybe that says more about me than my creations, but I think that's just like a wonderful challenge of trying to like strip away yourself and still make something, and then in the end it's still gonna feel like you. So it's like a process of getting out of your own way. So I guess he's kind of doing that, you know, like with his other 4 films, Hot Fuzz, Scott Pilgrim, Shaun of the Dead, and I guess 3 films. Oh, there's another one, The World's End. With those 4, they feel like obviously there's the Cornetto trilogy, which is the Hot Fuzz, Shaun of the Dead, and The World's End. But then Scott Pilgrim still feels like a step brother to those that trilogy that he created. They feel like from the same creator, and I feel like when he went off, Edgar Wright went off to do Baby Driver, he kind of was like trying to approach maybe a different type of audience, or like maybe more mainstream. He was trying to get more serious, trying to leave the humor and comedy, not completely leave it, but you know, cement himself as a more serious director, which I think is interesting. I mean, uh, like I said, just briefly, my thoughts on Baby Driver. I love the action. I love the soundtrack, the songs that he selected. I love the driving. I love any stunt work in films. Like that's probably one of my biases. If I see an amazing stunt, I'm immediately attracted to the film, and I think it's a great feat. I just love seeing something technically challenging. And then now with Last Night in Soho. So I was excited. Probably like, all right, this is going to be like a 9 out of 10 level excitement. You know, like I'm thinking, I'm going to go in here, have an amazing experience, come out, talk about it. It's going to be awesome. And I guess that's a lot of rambling because it's like I'm trying to like almost not talk about the film because it's kind of disappointing in my opinion. So this is him trying to be, I guess, more serious. Like it feels like a way more serious attempt of a film than Baby Driver was. So if you watch Baby Driver, then this is like maybe a step further into him trying to cement himself as a more serious director, which is cool. But I feel like in this film, I don't know. Well, I guess another bias that I have is that I I guess I have a bias against horror films. I typically don't like horror in anything, and I hate jump scares. This film only has like two or three, so it's not like a traditional horror film. But there are moments in this film that feel very, I guess like the word is homages. Like if you're familiar with film, maybe you've heard of a film called Suspiria. There's a lot of like lighting techniques that he uses in Soho that are reminiscent of that film, and then that kind of genre of film. I don't know the exact terms for that style of films, but it's very neon lighting, red, blues, extreme whites, yellows, greens. You know, it's like very expressionist kind of a lighting. He uses that a lot in this film, which I thought was beautiful. But I don't know. It's weird talking about the film. And then it being more of a horror type genre. It was way more horror than I thought it was going to be, and I think in a bad way. And again, it's like very difficult to talk about a horror genre film without spoiling it. If you're a fan of horror, then you probably know. Sorry, it was a possum. Oh, and I always am like freaking out. So I'm like a fucking. I'm not supposed to cuss. I'm like a dog, and if I see something move, I'm like instantly. So sorry about that. I will try to stop, because I know in my intro video, one of my friends, was like, I thought someone was gonna break into your window, and it's like, yeah, that's how I feel all the time. I am constantly in a state of like panic, and that's like my social anxiety. Like, wait, who is that? Do I know this person? No. And then like immediately try to make eye contact, and then like snap away, and then pretend like I never saw that person, like become a shadow. But then it just makes me look like a, yeah, like I said, like a dog with ADD or something. Anyways, back to the movie. I'm trying to keep this under 20 minutes this time, because my first one was like 40 minutes for Dune, so I'm trying to hurry up. Last Night in Soho. That's what I was talking about. Oh, that it's a horror genre, so it's hard to talk about anything specific. And then I think a lot of my problems with this film are very specific. So I will say I am like 99% sure we're going to review this film for Cineverm, and I will go into the spoilers in that podcast. I think for now I maybe won't do spoilers in these, just because I want to get used to hitting that 15-minute mark. I'm already at 9 minutes and 47 seconds just on the raw recording, so like I want them digestible first, and then maybe I do spoilers, or if I get some requests for a certain movie to do spoilers by myself, I can do that as well. But Yeah, because it's a horror film, it's hard to talk about specifics, and the specifics are the things I didn't like. So I will say, generally, I don't think this is a spoiler. Uh, but the way they so the film is about some sort of trauma, and as all horror films are, you know, there's always like a seed of something evil. So the evilness in this film, the way it's represented, and once you watch the film, or if you decide not to watch the film, I feel like that was probably one of the biggest weaknesses. And I think how it's displayed, the horror of the film, how it's visualized and brought to life. For some reason, for me, it just did not connect at all. Like, I felt like I was watching, like, I'm trying to say, like, I mean, it felt very amateur. It felt very. I'm trying to think of a word to like not be offensive, because like Edgar Wright's my dude. Like, this is like one of my favorite directors. Like, his style, his eye, his creative vision is like, I felt I felt like I was in tune with him. And Baby Driver was like, he'll get back on track. And then now this, and I'm like, I mean, I basically didn't like this film very much. I guess I'm kind of like walking around the issue here. But I think that problem with how the monsters are visualized in this film, uh, monsters is very broad. So don't think monsters. It's like the evilness, the horror of this film. I didn't like how it was visualized. I love the theme and the idea of it. There's obviously like revelations in the film. I won't really call them twists or anything, because I don't think they're twists, but you know, you learn more as you go. Like in all horror films, you know, like the demon movies, it's always like, oh, it's a possession, and then oh, it's actually this demon named Fred, you know, like from the Necronomicon. I'm mixing, like, you could tell I don't like horror shit. I think the Necronomicon is like from Evil Dead. I don't know. Leave in the comments what that's from, and I don't know why that popped up in my head first. But so I think that aspect really turned me off. But I love the theme. I love the idea that the film's trying to capture. Like, I think it has an important message, and I think it is a perfect concept. Like, if this film was realized in a different way, which is why I think I'm like so bummed about it, because I think the problem isn't really the, I mean, obviously the story I think needs a lot of rewriting. It feels very, again, like amateur, like it feels like a straight to DVD movie at times, and it was shocking. Like the first half of the film, I was like, all right, I can get into this. I'm liking it. I'm vibing with it. You know, the pace is there. I don't even think that's a compliment, but you know, like it's chugging along. Like, it feels kind of slow, and that's the other thing. It feels like like I guess that's the feeling. The straight to red box. You know, something that Netflix dropped, you know, on a random night, and it has like one actor. You're like, holy shit, that's and again, I cussed. Holy crap, that's Jason Momoa. He's fighting a demon. You know, you click on it because you're like, Jason Momoa fighting demons. Yeah, why not? You know, I'll watch this horror movie directed by whatever horror thing. Cool. That's what this film feels like. It feels like, which is so weird, because even Baby Driver, which, I mean, I guess Baby Driver did feel like that, but the stunts and the action performances pushed it over the top for me. This film, like, and it has two wonderful. I guess I'll talk about the good things, because I'm already at 14 minutes, and I have to cut this off at 20. The really good things about this film is Thomasin McKenzie. She's like the main actress of the film. Sorry, I have to burp. Apologize. I drank a lot of soda. Thomasin McKenzie is a brilliant performer. I love like the way she looks. I love her performance, and I especially love her voice. Like, I've seen her in a couple of things, but you know, this being like the first big role that I've seen her in, where she's kind of like the lead performer. I don't know. There's something about her voice that's like, it's weird, because I can like most of the times in this film I didn't understand what she was saying, because she's very like, it's like her vocal cords are very like constricted, and it's so for me, I think it's unique, and I always find unique things interesting, especially in films, because so many films are not unique. But I like how her voice sounded for some reason. Like it sounds like it's almost like if you were imagine a mouse uh, was a grown up, and like a humanoid mouse grown up, but then they still sounded like a mouse. Like it's very high pitched, but then it's dry and raspy, and it's constricted, and it's like her voice is very airy, and then it's also like, for me, like it was easy to misunderstand what she was saying. But for some reason it worked for me. I liked her voice. I liked how she looked. I liked her performance in the film. And I liked her role, but it's weird because this film goes into the normal horror tropes of like the main person, in all horror films there's like the main girl or like the last girl. I forgot what the like trope is, but there's always a girl that like survives and whatever. She kind of has that like vibe of a character where she's always screaming, and I mean, I think that's like realistic, like you would be screaming. But there was like a moment in this film, again, no like specifics, but I literally say that so I can like catch myself, like, hey, don't, like, you're about to spoil it, so I have to like remind myself not to spoil it. But where yeah, like there was a scene where she was just screaming, and then it's like, when you're adding drama, like there's the horror climax, and everyone's like, shit's hitting the fan. See, I cussed again. Stuff is hitting the fan, and there's like monsters or whatever is in the film, and the main character's like screaming like, "Ah!" And then it's like you're editing and cutting and you're showing the horror, and everyone in the audience like, oh my god, this is intense, and then you keep cutting and you keep showing the same person scream, but you can tell just like subconsciously as a viewer that she is re-screaming at the same things. Like, if you were in that real situation, you'd probably scream the first 2 times, like some demon popped up, and then the third and fourth time, you probably, like, I don't know, I think at some point I'd be like, you know what, I screamed already. Like, I've gotten all my screams out. I don't need to re-scream. Like, I don't think you would be that scared to just continually scream. I don't know, so it was like stuff like that, like little things that made it feel very cheap. Like the film, and it's so like it's so weird because I feel like the horror in like Shaun of the Dead and the suspense in The World's End, and I mean, and even like some of the like anxiety in Hot Fuzz feels more realistic and more, like, I don't know, it just feels better than anything in this film. So it feels like a regression from Edgar Wright's creative side. So, but yeah, I guess that's the positives are Thomas and McKenzie. Anya Taylor Joy is also like a beautiful performer in this film. I mean, I think everyone like has really grown to like know her because she's been just killing it lately with a lot of films, and I think that TV show. I don't watch TV, so I didn't watch it, but it was like The Queen's Gambit or something. I've seen like clips and trailers of it, and I mean, she is like, I'm trying to like, who do I even compare it to? Like, I mean, she's going to if not already, she is like peak. Like, she is the next. I don't even know who to compare it to because she also just has an interesting voice, and her face is like super beautiful. Her eyes are like so huge, and I'm just talking more from like a creator like perspective. Like if I was able to cast a film with two like up and coming one, well, for Anya, not up and coming, she's there and she's just pushing herself, but I think both Thomason and Anya are like two of the peak performer or actors that I would want to work with, like in today's age, in today's age, like of actors working. I think both of them just have like such unique qualities, and they're like so good. So like both of them in the movie are great. Um, I will say like Anya's character, like she's amazing, and then it's just like there's certain elements of her character, just like how Thomason has almost plays like a tropey generic screaming horror main character girl that's like surviving. Anya plays like again, don't spoil it, but I don't know. It just felt generic. Like at a certain point of this film, when you realize what's happening and the things are being revealed, it really falls into a. Sorry, I'm burping. It really falls into a just a slog, like a slog of predictability. And I think that's very disappointing. I guess another thing I'll talk about is the score. I didn't really like the score at all. You know, it's the same composer he's worked with multiple times, and something about the score also felt so cheap. I don't know. I think maybe he wrote this in the impression of like the Suspirias, and that's the only film I've seen that's in this like horror genre that I'm thinking he's like relating to. It's like some sort of foreign. I don't even know. So someone put in the comments what that Suspiria genre is. Maybe it's that, because you know I watched Suspiria for the first time like 2 or 3 years ago at the Sidewalk Film Festival in Birmingham, and everyone was pumped. It was like a full house. I was excited because everyone had always talked about it, and it was a visually stunning film. Like it just visually perfect. But the writing and the general plot of that film, I mean, I was passing out, and I love slow cinema, and I love lingering, but it just like even that film felt like I don't know, it didn't feel right to me, like for my taste, and I think this film feels the same way. Like the dialogue is very weird. Like the dialogue for me felt very cheap and fake. Like I don't know, it's like just something about the script itself also bothered me in the story. And like I said, I like the themes, but the way it captures the themes, and a lot of it's how it's visualized and performed, but even how it's written, I don't know, there's something that just like it didn't feel like it was trying to talk about this thing, but then it has this weird moment of it's like defending the thing, and then it's like, oh no, I'm not defending that thing, and then it's like, well wait, what's the point of any of this then? And it feels so contradictory. It feels like a contradiction in the filmography of Edgar Wright, because I feel like Hot Fuzz has a lot of substance behind it. You know, Shaun of the Dead, I think, has substance behind it. The World's End, specifically for me, it feels incredibly deep emotionally. Like, I think emotionally, The World's End was his peak creative film. I know a lot of people don't really like it, but for me, the way it talks about addiction and like losing friends and getting older and like trying to stay in youth and recapture that energy and like reliving experiences. I think that's what The World's End is about, and I love that film a lot. Like that's the most emotional film that from him that I feel. And then obviously Scott Pilgrim. I even feel like Scott Pilgrim has a lot of depth. Again, that's, you know, adapted from a comic or manga. I'm not sure what it is actually, the original. If it's a manga or comic. Anyways, or graphic novel. It's based on that, so you know there's some leeway there, but still, like I don't know. And then there's no. At the end of the film, I didn't really care. You know, I didn't care about these characters. I mean, it was a cool journey, but there's something that I don't know. I think he just like really missed the point, or missed the boat. Like I don't even know. Like it's so much worse than I thought it was gonna be. So I guess with all that being said, I'm at the 24 and 50-second mark, so I'm gonna just close out my thoughts. Again, like I wanted these really short. So I think if you're a horror fan, I think maybe you'd get something out of it. I think visually, see, I didn't even talk about the visuals. The visuals are, for me, like probably the best part. You know, it's shot on film. It looks beautiful. The cinematography is frequently nice. I think, and that's the other thing. I think this and Baby Driver are probably his two, I don't want to say ugliest films, but they're the least visually appealing. And I feel like, I don't know, like I don't understand why he can't translate his kinetic style into seriousness. I feel like he is Like, someone needs to talk to him and be like, dude, you can still have your voice and do more serious work. I believe, maybe I'm wrong. As a fan, I want to believe of his work that he can keep his voice and then still pursue this more serious role in films. Like, I don't know. I don't like. It feels like he's really stripping away a lot of his personality. Like, I couldn't even tell you. I mean, even me being an Edgar Wright fan, I'd probably say like 90% of this film, I wouldn't have been able to know it was Edgar Wright. Like, it feels like he has completely stripped away his creative eye. And I don't know if if it's just because he's imitating like the Suspirias and stuff and whatever that name is of the subgenre or genre, or if it's in his mind, maybe he's like, well, I need to be serious, so I can't do certain things visually. I think it's possible to do both. I want to say it is, because what he ends up doing here, I mean, it's borderline bad. I mean, the last half of this film, I thought it was pretty bad, like, just bad, like, it was bad. And that's insane that I'm saying that from a Edgar Wright film. Like, that is crazy. Like, he has two 10 out of 10s for me, which is, I mean, there's maybe like 4 directors that have two 10 out of 10. So, like, he's in my pantheon of the my favorites. And I don't know, it's just really disappointing. So I guess if you like horror films, I mean, I guess you might get something out of it. Maybe. I don't even know. I don't even think it's a great horror film. Like, if I were to, like, even the horror films I don't like, I'm like, all right, I get why horror fans like this. You know, X, Y, and Z, the murders, the kills, the kill shots, you know, the horror, the demonology, you know, I think I have a grasp of why horror fans like what they like, you know, in the little subgenres and tastes that they have. I don't think it really works that well as a horror film. I think it is a cool idea, and I think it's a cool film, but I don't know. I don't think I would recommend it to everyone, unless you are a fan of Thomasin McKenzie or Anya Taylor-Joy, or you're a diehard Edgar Wright fan like me, and you just have to finish. Oh, you have to finish his filmography. Like, you can't just skip one. You know, that'd be insanity. So I think for all of y'all, obviously you're gonna watch it. Oh yeah, for the visuals, yeah, like, I feel like even his visual style was like a miss here. There was some key moments where he plays with reflections, and I think you see that in the trailer. Mirror reflections. Sorry, my voice is... Where he plays with mirror reflections and stuff. Even then, in the neon lights, it feels very cheesy and hammy, and it feels obvious. Which is so weird, because he's created such amazing visual works. The editing and the cutting, like, there are some moments of, like, brilliant editing and cuts and transitions and movements, but again, it feels very, I don't know, it feels stripped away. Like, it honestly feels like, it feels unlike him. It doesn't feel like an Edgar Wright film, which I think is the worst thing I can say. And like, and I get that he's trying to move away from the past style, but I mean, if you're like, in my belief, I love the idea of a creator stripping himself away, right? To wrap this all the way back up to the beginning, because I'm already at the 30-minute mark. I think it's exciting for a creator to strip away who they are and reinvent themselves. But I think the challenge is to reinvent yourself into something that also has some unique qualities. You know, it's not. I think the part of the challenge is that, you know, like, if I write a horror novel or film, it's all right. Now I'm going to do a romantic film, and it's not that I'm just going to strip away all the horror elements. It's I'm going to adopt new elements. So where this feels like its own thing, and this feels like its own thing. And I feel like maybe he's not really... Like, this doesn't feel like its own thing. And Baby Driver, for me, also didn't really feel like its own thing. You know? And I don't know. It's kind of bumming me out. Because I'm a huge Edgar Wright fan. And I don't know. I mean, I hope this film does decent enough so it doesn't, like, do anything horrible to his career. I mean, I think he's fine career-wise. He should have like more opportunities, but I don't know. So I guess that's my impressions and review. Like I said, I would recommend it if you're a horror fan or Edgar Wright fan or a fan of those two actresses. I think it has some cool moments, but in the end, it just felt like kind of unmemorable and kind of disappointing. So those are my general impressions. I'm trying to think what I would rate this out of 10. I think I'd give this film a 6 out of 10 right now. This is just my immediate reactions. It might go up and down later on as I think about this, but I think right now I'm sitting at a 6 out of 10. I think it's alright. You know, the beginning is so good that it makes up for the really bad ending. So, and that's almost more of a negative than a positive. Like, if I rewatch this film, it would be mainly for the beginning. Something's off with this film, and it's bumming me out. It's bumming me out. But anyways, that's my review. Oh, I guess some other positive things that I liked. I liked the whole like costume design element of the film, and I like the whole idea of like fashion and clothing. That's cool. Like I like films that like showcase, you know, like little specific niche and elements that I'm not aware of. You know, like I know nothing about costume design or fashion or anything like that. So it was cool seeing that little hint of a career or hobbies or passions that others may have. I think that's awesome. But anyways, that concludes my A Lonely Critic impressions and review of Last Night in Soho. Sorry, it's over 30 minutes again. I mean, it's better than 45. So I'm like, the next one will be 30 minutes, and then the next one will be 25, and then 20, and then by next year when I do my challenge, I'll be able to spit these out really quick. But anyways, so yeah, so if you could if you want to get the spoiler of this, it should be on Cineverm, not this Tuesday, but the next Tuesday it should drop. And that's my film podcast where I do a non-spoiler review and spoiler discussion at the end with my friend David. You can check that out. I can't talk. In all podcast platforms, wherever you listen to podcasts, just type up Cineverm, and it'll be there. And that link will be in the description of this video as well. And then if you like comic books, I recently am a new reader of comic books. I've never read comics before until like 2 months ago, and I started a podcast about that, which is called Comic Verm with my friend Jeffrey Carroll. And if you so yeah, check that out again on all your favorite podcast players. And it's fun. You can just jump in. It's kind of like a book club with comics. So if you've never read comics, you can listen to the review. Again, review, no spoilers, and then spoiler. And you can like follow along as we read comics, and you can listen to our non-spoiler, see if maybe you think that book would be worth purchasing, read it along, listen to our spoilers, you know, and join the journey of discovering a new art form, you know. And then speaking of Jeffrey Carroll, he also has his own podcast, which is, I think it's one of the best podcasts. I listen to it all the time, and I'm not even saying that just because he's a co-host with me. I learned about his podcast, and then I asked him to be a co-host with me in Comic Room. So that's how much I like his podcast and his voice and like what he's doing in that field. So check out the Back Bedroom podcast on all podcast players, and that's from him. Tell him I sent you. I'm trying to see like how many people are like clicking through these things, you know, like is it even worth talking about, you know? I don't know. But yeah, so check all those things out, and then I should sometime at the end of this week or next week, I'm thinking about doing another YouTube channel. I think I said that in my intro video. I'm just deciding like how hardcore is it gonna be, because I guess I'll talk about it in that video. So expect something else. But yeah, follow A Lonely Critic on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. You can find me on all those places. Just my name is Anthony Renteria, so just you can find me wherever. I'm everywhere, I think. Besides TikTok. I'm trying to refrain from that as long as I humanly can. But yeah, so thank you for watching my review. Hopefully it made some kind of sense. Again, I'm still working on this. I'm still trying to trim these down. At some point, they will be 15 minutes long. And that's my goal, 10 to 15 minutes. And I'll come in here, say what I have to say, and get out. And then, yeah. So, hope you have a good day, and I'll see you next week. Again, for now, I'm just doing one a week. These are more practice runs. 2022, next year, when I watch every single new theatrical release film. That's the goal. That's the objective. That's the bullseye. That's the target. So these are just practice for me to get used to this camera, for me to get used to talking by myself, for me to get used to being on camera, and for me to get used to editing and like kind of seeing how long it's going to take to edit it and prep it and post it and share it and do all those things that I hate doing. This is the part that I like, just talking. But yeah, so thank you so much, and I'll see you next week with, actually I don't know what film's going to be next week. I guess I could start saying that at the end of these videos. I want to say it's the Eternals. Or Eternals. Let's see. Yeah, Eternals. So I'll see you next Friday or Saturday. Again, I don't even know what day I'm posting these. I think I'm just going to try to turn them around as fast as possible. Next year I'll decide a definitive date and do that. But yeah, I'll see you next week with the Eternals. And have a good night.